Okay. Oh,
guys, just
for the
really quick one.
intellectual, you want me to watch mass shooting survivors versus NRA members? I mean, this is just like viewer discretion should be advised for this, dude. This is going to be brain cancer inducing. I mean, this will hurt you. I will not lie to you. You will watch this and you will probably not look at yourselves or look at Jubilee the same way after this. This is going to be a big one. This is going to be a roller coaster of emotions, I presume.
I'm Dylan, 23 years old, two-time mass shooting survivor.
I'm Taylor. I'm 20 years old.
Wait,
I
what?
was at the
Wait, is that the fucking guy? Is that one of the people that was at the at Las Vegas and then went to the Thousand Oaks bar? I know some people that were at that Thousand Oaks bar. There's like a couple of them. He's not the only one, I don't think. How unlucky, or how lucky, bro. He survived 2 mass shootings. It's unlucky that you were even in a mass shooting to begin with. But lightning is not supposed to strike twice. Well, I guess if you're in America.
I just want to say I'm so sorry for everyone here. I can't imagine going through it. And I have a question for you. So you're in high school.
Yeah.
Do you feel safer or less safe being that your whole school is a gun-free zone?
He's like, I don't know anyone that's been killed in a mass shooting. And I know that you have. But I'm here to just make total political points over your past experience. I'm going to exploit your fears that you currently have to put in a good word for the NRA. This is exciting. This is exciting. Thank you, Jubilee, for giving me the opportunity to do that. Very cool.
I guess I feel safer, but I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's a gun or if it's a knife or it's a bomb or if it's a car running into people. I think he was going to do it no matter what.
Do you wish that there was more that you'd be able to have done? It must feel helpless.
It was like I went fight or flight, so my thing was like...
This is the most psychotic, unhinged video that Jubilee has done. Putting sickos, like actual NRA sickos in here. Like, they might as well have just sponsored this by the NRA. You can't put NRA psychos around, victims of mass shooting. They're going to use that to manipulate the shit out of them and turn their trauma into yet another instance of why you must get guns and why schools should have guns. Dude, America is just, it's nuts. Lol, you hate America and the NRA. We get it, LMAO. Brother, if I hated America, I would love the NRA. Seriously. If I hated America, I would love the NRA. I would love both the Democratic and the Republican Party. I would be the biggest fan of the Republican Party for sure. Like, it's because I don't want America to implode. And that's the reason why I criticize unregulated, complete, rampant lobbying efforts from large corporations and gun manufacturers that literally kill people, that are directly responsible for the gun violence that we have. Honestly, like, if I hated America, it's not about supporting Al-Qaeda and shit, dude. If you really hate America, support the Republican Party. They are infinitely more consequential in the complete destruction of the United States of America than some bitch-made ex-CIA trained motherfucker ever could do anything to America. Like, in comparison to that, oh my God. It's America's own thirst and hunger for increasing shareholder value that destroys America.
My dad was raised in upstate New York, so he was around guns all the time, and we've talked about it. But it wasn't for, like, protection more. It was more for, like, that was your lifestyle, right? It's like you needed to go out and shoot a couple bunnies. You needed to go out and shoot, like, a deer. That was, like, how you fed yourself. That's how you lived. And so I think if I was in that situation, definitely I would own a gun. But in a situation where it's like where I live, I feel safe.
Now, here's the thing. I can disagree with you, and I do. However, I am never, and anyone that tries to make you feel different than that viewpoint, I'm never gonna do that. Yeah. That's your right to not have one. I'm like, cool.
Sick, dude.
When I go to my friends' houses that are afraid of guns, that I've known for 15 years, I make a personal choice. I don't take my gun in their house. I make a joke about it.
Yo, that's sick, dude. Oh my God. You don't bring your gun into your friend's house because they're afraid of guns? That's crazy, man. Like, can you imagine having this about any other thing? This is a testament to how successful guns as a commodity have become a part of your identity. Like, your consumption of gun culture is a incredibly important part of your identity. You're just a weeb for guns. Okay, at that point, there is nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, that would be considered acceptable to even have that conversation over. Nothing. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm really into BDSM and I need to come into your house in a gimp suit. Like, that's just my identity. No, of course not. It's not. It wouldn't work that way. Everyone would be like, fuck off. Shut up.
I don't think about whether we need more or less guns in this country. I think about freedom. If you my brother and you my sister and you don't want a gun, I respect your right to not have one. Where you lose me is if you use any of those firearms negligently or to rob or rape or kill unjustifiably.
If you don't use a firearm when you rape, well, that's what we call the gray area. What the fuck? Versus what? Justifiable rape? Or what's going on? This is what I like to call defensive rape. You're about to get raped and then you turn around and rape him first.
America has a mass shooting problem.
Yeah. America has a mass shooting problem. Oh, wow.
Mass shooting is different than, let's say...
Bro, she was a part of a mass shooting. How the fuck do you experience a mass shooting and you go, nah, that's just a regular part of... It's just a natural catastrophe, dude. I love that. I love when you're like, you know, these things, these mass shootings, they're just natural disasters. Who's to say how we can stop them?
This is massive amounts of people that are still shooting humans, even if it's themselves.
Right.
If we're talking about stats, mass shootings, they would say, are not a problem, based on the data of what that definition of mass shooting is.
The FBI collects data on active shooter incidents, which is defines of one or more individuals actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a populated area. Using the FBI's definition, 85 people, excluding the shooters, died in such incidents in 2018. Oh, wait, do they take this out of... Do they take gang-related mass shootings out of this or something? This has to be infinitely lower than the actual number. I guess they take out any sort of like criminal activity beyond like an active shooter or beyond mass shooting. 85 is still unreasonable, don't get me wrong, but that number is much higher than 85 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, like the number is like up in the hundreds, if not more than 417 mass shootings last year.
I believe we have a mental health problem. I believe we have a drug problem. I believe we have a racial problem. And the reason why I don't think mass shooting is a problem is because if we took all the guns, it wouldn't stop the violence.
That's not true. If you took out all the guns, it would eliminate gun violence almost in its entirety. Comparable nations with comparable mental health statistics do not have the same amount of gun violence that we have here in the United States. The United States is an outlier when it comes to gun violence. It's a insane idea. Now, I'm not also stating on top of that you know, it's not a mental health problem. There's certainly an element of it that can be linked back to mental health. There are ways to make this better. There are ways to eliminate some of these issues as it pertains to mental health. But to say that it's just a mental health problem, or just to say that mental health is a significant factor, plays a significant role in this at all, is silly. Because, again, you can look to other countries with mental health problems at the same rate, with no gun violence in comparison to the United States. Switzerland is one of the few countries in Europe that has the highest rate of gun violence. Okay, it's one of the highest rates of gun violence in the European continent. And the reason for that is because more people have guns. But even then, even when you compare a country like Switzerland, when gun ownership is much higher in comparison to a country like the United States of America, their gun violence rate is infinitely lower than the United States of America. And the reason for that is because they have training. They have a tremendous amount of training and gun regulations, common sense gun regulations. The most significant factor, though, in gun violence is guns. That's it.
I think it's something like 8.9 out of 10 mass shootings happen in gun-free zones.
This is another talking point that gun lobbyists use, or people that have read gun lobbyist research use. 80% of gun violence occurs in gun-free zones, but that's because there are a lot more gun-free zones than there are zones where you can use a gun. It's not because it's an unprotected area, and that's precisely why people are searching for it. It's so dumb. It's just like saying gun control doesn't, thank you for pointing this out. It's like saying gun control doesn't stop the gun violence in Chicago. Well, yeah, it's because they're brought from neighboring states. It's almost like we need regulation at the federal level.
Like, I couldn't believe in Nice, France, on Bastille Day, there was like 86 people mowed down by a guy with a truck. But you don't hear anything about, we need truck reform or like truck violence. It's always...
Again, a really stupid take. Cars have a utility outside of murder. The only utility that guns have is murder. This is so dumb. It's the loss of life or an end to life. Just say you like shooting guns and move on. Just say it's really cool, and maybe one day you might have to use it. You don't want to, but you might have to use it in some situation. It is an idiotic false equivalency that gun lovers use. Oh, we need truck reform. Secondly, I wish we had gun reform in the form of truck reform. I wish you needed to get the same kind of licensing to be able to fucking get and shoot a gun. Then they turn around and say, well, it's not in the Second Amendment that every American has a right to car ownership, but they do have to gun ownership. Well, that's because, that's because of a more modern interpretation of gun laws, specifically the Second Amendment, and it's bullshit.
It should be harder to purchase a gun.
So if you agree.
Speak your truth, brother.
There's something called the gun show loophole. Think about it like the black market, right? Unless you have a storefront and you're telling, the government, hey, I want to sell guns and make a profit, you need to be certified in that sense. If you're gonna—
One person? Only one person? Dude, America is done, dude. There is no saving this dumbass country. That's why there's so many leftists in my audience who are like, you can't disarm the proletariat. Like, it's just so dumb. This is the dumbest country on the planet. I'm so disgusted with my fellow man. Look at this group of individuals. Like, 4 of them have been mass shootings, and they're still like, no, we shouldn't actually have any additional regulation that would make it harder to purchase a gun. Oh my fucking God. This isn't cuckoldry. Like, this is literally, the example I would use here is like, if you were in a mass shooting and you still were advocating for more guns. And that is kind of what's happening here. So very cool.
So it definitely is different from state to state.
Sure.
In California, it's very difficult. In Illinois, it's difficult. And the crazy thing is you see a lot of gun violence in those states, but New Hampshire, it's
so crazy. It's almost like the population is, oh, yeah. I like that the video is owning her. At this point, the video is like, come on, you're insane. Like, you have to be insane to think like, oh, well, look at the gun violence that's happening. There's a lot of gun violence in heavily populated areas. Oh, don't you know? That's kind of crazy, don't you know?
So I'm just curious, what you're asking for basically is like a national registry for firearms, right?
If we could do that, why not?
Okay, so I feel like if you look back in history, it's never worked out for citizens. If you look back at Germany, if you look at Venezuela right now.
Yeah, this is a really good take too. They ignore how most gun deaths are accidents or suicides, so more guns will only lead to more deaths, even if arming everyone stopped all the mass shootings automatically. Which, by the way, there is a case to be made that arming everyone is not going to stop mass shootings, but instead create more mass shootings, because in an instance where one party has a gun during a confrontation, well, one, that's how you get your gun stolen. That's one. 2, if both parties have a gun, then it's more likely to turn into a violent altercation with a gun rather than one party having a gun. It's impossible for someone to understand where I'm coming from when I say this, because everyone automatically assumes that violence, especially with guns, come from a place of like magical evil that exists within people. It's like this weird 12-year-old take on the world where you think like some people are evil and they want to do murder because they just love murder and they get off on murder, and other people are good and they don't want to do murder. That's not how it works. Most people that have a gun are not there to use that gun and kill you. They have a gun because they want to rob you because they're poor as shit. Now, that doesn't excuse them robbing you, don't get me wrong, but it also it decreases the likelihood that they're there to just kill you for the sake of killing you.
Teachers should be armed.
I mean, I believe teachers that want to be armed should be armed. I don't think anybody should have to, worry about the responsibilities that are associated with gun ownership if they don't want to. But obviously, the more good people with guns, especially in a school, I think that would be great.
Look at what we do protect with firearms. Our politicians.
Yeah, no, it, dude. Yeah, give teachers guns. It, dude. I mean, that's the only legislation that passed after Sandy Hook, where teachers would get $500 in subsidies for purchasing a weapon and getting training on their own time. It's not a joke. This is a real thing in America. The Florida gun law that literally no teacher wanted, by the way. Yeah, we did a law for public safety, said Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm in high school and I would be afraid if my teacher had a gun. in a country where teachers have to pay out-of-pocket money for their own school supplies, they get $500 in subsidies from the local government to go out and purchase a weapon. Just clapping Rob for being a bad student over and over again. Just, you're late to class again. Blow!
When they're going to school, they're going to learn, have fun, be with their friends. This teacher now has a weapon on them. Who's also to say that the teacher can't take action? I know for the rest of my life when I have kids, I'm gonna be worried that they might experience the same things that I have.
You joke and you say, how about why stop at teachers just arm all the students battle royale style? I'm not even kidding. Like, I feel like we will get to that point. Like, I can see a red state 100% applying that. You know what I mean? Like I can totally see like 10 years down the line and like mass shootings have gone up and like teachers are clapping students now. So they're like, the NRA is just like, you know what? We should give the kids guns too so that they can fight back against their teachers if the teacher decides to be a bad guy. Or the teacher's job is stressful enough. So, you know, they can't really get a good sense of school shooters and like they don't have enough time to train themselves. So what we should do is arm the students as well. I can totally see that. At first, I would be like, that's insane. But we live in America. And like I said, after the horrific tragedy of Parkland, the immediate law that changed was giving teachers guns. Like, it's a meme.
I believe there's a way to prevent mass shootings.
Well, if we're more loving, we create more understanding around everybody, regardless of race, religion, gender identity, any of that stuff. If we're more empathetic, we cultivate more understanding around who you are, and then there's less hatred because I understand where you're coming from. And if we're more vulnerable, then we're able to talk about things like mental health. We're able to talk about like, hey, I feel depressed. Hey, I'm anxious. Hey, you know, I've been thinking about it. I want to shoot up a school. And you're the only person I feel safe talking to. You know, if we prioritize those, we as humans become better, and then we can contribute to our global community.
I love all that. I mean, being a mom especially, I want my daughter to grow up in that kind of world, you know. And I just think that also in the meantime, we have to address the issue that there is evil in this world. Like, we don't want it to exist. I don't think you can legislate it out. A good guy with a gun is going to stop a bad guy, hopefully, with a gun. That's the best chance, you know.
This last question sucks because the NRA lobbyists are in the circle thinking, yeah, the only way to prevent more mass shootings is by arming everybody. And the other people are like, yeah, we can have a dance circle and sing Kumbaya and less people will kill one another. Meanwhile, the only guy who had a good take on like making gun ownership more difficult is sitting in the background because he knows how dumb everyone is.